Okay, good morning, good afternoon. I'm David Solomon. In addition to being the Director of Research and Creative Activity at Christopher Newport University in Virginia, I am the current chair of the Undergraduate Research Programs Division of CUR. I want to welcome you to this month's Undergraduate Research Programs Exchange. These 50-minute Zoom sessions are monthly facilitated exchanges of ideas and information on a variety of topics and issues related to undergraduate research programs. Sessions are recorded and made available on the Kerr community, the Kerr URPD website, and will be emailed to all those who pre-registered for the call. These exchanges are not designed to be formal presentations, but instead will begin with very brief introductions by facilitators and then open for discussion. Today's session addresses leveraging undergraduate research as career readiness skills. We're fortunate to have colleagues from two institutions to help facilitate this session. And first, I'll ask them to introduce themselves, and then they'll show you a few slides, speak about their practices, and we'll have plenty of time for questions and discussion. So I'm going to turn it over to Anne. Would you introduce yourself?
I am Ann Betcher. I'm the Assistant Dean of Research at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, so our Arizona campus.
And Karen?
I am Karen Rodriguez, and I'm the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
Okay, great. So I think we're going to get started with Anne. So just cue me to change the slides, ladies.
Okay, thank you. So I'm very lucky at Embry-Riddle that since I arrived on campus 11 years ago, we've had a close partnership with Career Services, which is also linked to our philanthropy office and our alumni engagement. And so a lot of the ties and bridges that we've made to elevate research skills for career readiness lies in that close association. And so about 5 years ago, we started to look at how we can align career readiness with our research skills. More recently, we've used the 8 competencies that NACE has, and very nicely, about, I think, a couple months ago, Kerr released Where Career Readiness and Undergraduate Research Intersects. And our career services assessment people and I were all quite glad to see that we were aligning exactly where Kerr sees alignment. And so I strongly recommend that if you're looking for ways to build the alignment, reviewing NACE's site, but then also looking at Kerr's document, which I think
The link is
just
in the
put in
chat
the
for
chat
folks.
so that you can directly access that.
And you can also
Just
drop comments and questions in the chat. I should have mentioned that.
And just for a couple examples, like the communication career readiness competency, Kerr has some really nice ties in with career affairs, progress reports, interviewing prep and experiences, workshops, resume building, all those kinds of things. They have really nice links that aren't just valuable for undergraduate research program people, but also if you're trying to help faculty with integrating these skills into the classroom, they have some of the activities you can use. So I think that's quite a valuable piece to look at.
Let the app quickly process your recording and get an accurate word-for-word transcript.
And so with that in mind, um, we on our campuses, we're going through a curricular cohesion program where all of our campuses will now use the same um, book and same guide for all our processes. And so we have started to build assessment tools that would allow us to align across campus programs, but also to build assessment in that lets us link with general ed and with the NACE competencies. So I'm going to show you two examples that we have just finished up. So we actually haven't really started collecting data with these tools yet. But we took our outcomes and then aligned them in the second column with the institutional learning outcomes using the general ed competencies, and then figured out where they aligned with NACE. So for our undergraduate research program proper, this is the metric, these are the metrics we've developed. And for the communication piece, we've identified activity level, expected knowledge level to align with the structure the university uses, the activities we do, and then different assessment metrics. For this one, we don't have any of the targets yet because we've just started using this platform this year for this program. But we received incredible help from our assessment team. So I would say this is about 5 iterations into what we started with. And because the assessment team was very familiar with the NACE competencies, it made it much easier to do the alignment. And this is what we think about now. How do we align this for all of our activities? Some align a little bit more with our general ed. You see that information literacy. It could align with NACE's technical component, but we decided to keep it more aligned just at the university level. And then the professionalism and leadership strictly align with NACE versus trying to cross the divide. But this gives us tools not just for assessment, but also for showing where there are links across campus and getting the support from the different campus groups. And so if you move to the next slide. This is a program that crosses all 3 campuses. And so we developed the program with our partner residential campus, which is Daytona Beach, but also with our worldwide campus, which is holistically online. We do have some sites. It's our undergraduate research scholar program. And so this is a program that gives students who've sort of gone above and beyond in undergraduate research to get recognition on their transcript for the activities they've done. So it's gone through a full review process with our registrar and with our leadership and academics. And we had to make sure that this would fit and align with very different types of programming between the residential campuses and our worldwide campus. But we still pulled in the same types of competencies that you saw in the last slide. So the general ed and the NACE competencies, because of our curricular alignment, we were able to align those. And then we had very defined activities. Because this is a transcript designation, we have to assure that all the students across the campuses are aligning with these. And because this is a brand new program, you can see some of the targets for success and potential challenges that this type of assessment and this type of alignment with the NACE competencies will help us hopefully overcome some of the potential challenges, but also direct resources where they're needed. The one thing I would mention for this is because this is multi-campus, and it is a newer program, we're still building some of the resources to support this. And we've launched on the Prescott campus a Canvas site, so a learning management system site that allows students to input their material so we can record it, but it also has a built-in e-portfolio platform. And so as we move forward, all the students will be doing e-portfolios, and we're getting a lot of guidance and help from career services with those. And then next slide. And finally, just wanted to share some of the, I guess, more concrete, less assessment-based ways we partner with career services to help build industry connections. So we have an industry and alum members on our undergraduate research advisory board. And we periodically have input from career services, although they don't serve a formal role. Career services partners with all of our training and evaluations. So I have a screenshot up in the corner that has individuals' resume. This is actually on our Canvas site for the Undergraduate Research Scholar Program. And this allows our career services people, as well as undergraduate research leads, to provide comments to students in real time. So we're not going back and forth. They get all the comments in one site. So we have them on all of our learning management platforms to help. We also have built into our career expos research showcases. So at the start of both our spring and our fall career expo, we have a research showcase where students sign up to have a poster and any demo materials. It's that they can share with industry partners before the start of the career expo. So the hour that the people are getting their coffee and pastries, they go through and see the exhibits that the students have. This group also has the first shot. They get to go in to the Career Expo at the same time our veterans and seniors get to go in. So it gives students an advantage there. And I have two shots of our Career Expo. In both of them, we have former Undergraduate Research Institute students who are now recruiters, and they're particularly helpful in building that partnership for the students. And so we really keep pretty close contact with those. We try to keep close contact with those teams. All of our industry partnerships that we have for research and mentoring, we do with career services. And most recently, across the state, the Arizona NASA Space Grant Consortia has built an internship program where all of the institution's career services provided input of industry partners in the region that might be able to provide internships with students. And then we did a call out. We're using Space Grant Foundation funding for this because we can't use the grant proper. And we are hoping that in this first year, where we have 5 students, which isn't a huge number, but it is one at each of our partner schools, will help build the industry partnerships in the region, and that those industry partners will start providing funding for this. And so that's been a really nice partnership, not just with career services, but also across the state.
Okay, great. So I guess we're going to move to Karen. So
Yep.
Sort of segging into talking specifically about resumes.
You can go to the next slide, David. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about career readiness at the ground level of student engagement and the development of our research to resume workshop. It's part of our professionalization portfolio for students, and it's also a workshop that satisfies the requirement for our distinguished researcher certificate. So I'm going to give you sort of a broad overview of the concepts, some examples of some of the things we go over with students, and then some things sort of beyond that. So we have partnered with our campus level career center early on, back in 2016, actually. And as part of that process, we aligned it with, like most of you and all the things that you do with your offices, we aligned it with the University of Illinois goal of transformative learning experiences and the integration of career development and adaptability into the academic experience. And then for our office, one of our strategic priorities is democratizing access to research experiences through specific targeted workshops like this one, outreach and other resources, and particularly establishing best practices for undergraduate professional development. And honestly, also it's become sort of a metric for us as well. It's an important component of the annual reporting that we do, an assessment to our provost office. So workshop objectives is basically to help students understand what employers, grad schools, et cetera, are looking for, helping students identify and translate their research skills and experiences into content for their resume or CV. And this workshop was originally envisioned and developed with the Career Center. It was meant for students who had already had research experience and were thinking about applying to grad school and for jobs. But we found when we started giving them that students were showing up who also were just starting out in research, so they weren't necessarily ready to put together a resume or a CV. So the current iteration of our workshop, and we're actually kind of thinking about how we might redevelop it because it can get a bit long, is it's meant to help those students who have not yet begun research and helps them kind of orient to what the impact of research might be for them and align to their future goals, as well as for advanced students who are actually ready to build a research-oriented resume or CV. We also modified this workshop based upon audience. So we get a lot of outreach requests from registered student organizations and classes, et cetera. So we'll offer to tailor it to their needs. So next slide, David. So just an example of one of our slides, kind of like what Anna was talking about in terms of NACE. So we begin with introducing students to what the NACE competencies are and what that might mean for them. Often noting what we could kind of consider more higher order competencies beyond the technical expertise or discipline specific things that they're learning how to do. Next slide. Then particularly for those students who are just beginning, we talked to them a bit about some resources that you can actually access. And I don't know if all of you know about ONET online. But so through ONET and LinkedIn, it essentially gives them an opportunity to think about why research. They're thinking about their future goals. What are the skills that their career or profession requires? And so the resources like ONET and LinkedIn, and then people that they know to be able to sort of help them articulate that. Next slide. And then what are the skills that researchers actually learn about? So we'll talk to them about length again, sort of thinking about this in terms of higher order things, whether it's written communication, verbal communication, et cetera, and more discipline specific skills. And next slide. And then we start to work through them, work with them to understand sort of the broad to narrow and narrow to broad. So for instance, what does it mean when we're talking about problem solving? What is organization? How does that translate to tasks you actually learned how to do, teamwork, etc. Next slide. And then we start putting it together, work on putting it together with them. So we've developed a worksheet. And we know when we start working with them on this that they're probably not going to get through the whole sheet during the workshop, but it's a really good place for them to start thinking about how to put this together, how to meld the sort of the NACE competencies and understanding what those are, and the skills that they have picked up. We also offer mini workshops, which we call research bites, that break down an important component of some of our larger workshops, like the research to resume research bite, that actually breaks down job ads and helps them construct a research resume. We also follow up with offer one-on-one opportunities so they can meet with one of our peer ambassadors or a member of our staff. We're also currently working on partnering with some of our college career offices, because we have both a campus level one and then colleges like our liberal arts and sciences and also our engineering have their own career offices as well. And so we're looking to partner with them to develop mini workshops, kind of like our research bites, and then also monthly brown bag drop-in resume sessions where we can actually help students break down job ads and apply it to their resume. The next slide. And so this is just an example of how we work with students both in the workshop and also when we're working with them one-on-one. The top portion is essentially like the original version of what a student started working on in terms of talking about their research experience. The bottom half is after us helping them sort of think more particularly and aligning it with specific skills that they have picked up as part of the research process. And then next slide. And yeah, so I didn't want to, our workshop is actually an hour and a half, so I don't think this is the place to show you all of our slides and what we do. But basically what we do, the rest of what we do is we go over in some detail, what is the difference between a resume and a CV? When are they used? We help break down grad school applications versus applying for a job. Um, and then we also, in terms of breaking down the job ad, we'll actually pull job ads and look at them with what's important. So are there particular words that are mentioned several times? What are the roles and responsibilities that have been outlined? Requirements and qualifications that they're looking for. And then step by step, we started working with them in terms of, again, sort of helping match the skills that they've picked up as part of the research process, and how do you start translating that into a resume that actually addresses the job ads or the jobs that they're actually applying for. We also encourage them to be really creative, to sort of think beyond a specific research experience that they had and how that might actually demonstrate a wider range of skills than just their research projects. And lastly, we underscore that there's actually a lot of resources on our campus available, both with our office. As I said, we do a lot of one-on-one. We have the workshops and the mini sessions and brown bags. Their own college will have a career center that they can actually talk to as well. And as I mentioned, we partner with them. We do a lot of work in terms of not just sort of general how to build a resume, but more particularly, again, targeted towards students who have had undergraduate research experience. And then also that there's the larger campus center as well. And that's me.
Great. I'm having some technical issues there. There we go. Okay, fantastic. If you have any questions or comments, you can throw them in the chat or raise a hand. My mouse just died, so I'm trying to do this without a mouse. I have a question to start off with, which is it's interesting. I mean, a lot of what you're doing, Karen, in that session is seems to me like it would be career services that would take care of that. I mean, I do a session for my office on writing a CV, but I certainly don't go into the depth and the detail that you are there. I mean, are you doing that in collaboration with career services?
We started out that way. So when we first partnered with them back in 2016, and we do check in as well. But we found that the larger campus career center um, wasn't as helpful for students. So we were getting feedback from students as well in thinking specifically about research skills and translation to a resume or a CV. So that was something that we took on and we really developed. I mean, we worked with them on it, certainly. And then when we're talking with the career service and professionalization offices in two of our larger colleges, engineering and LAS, we think about, again, it's the same thing. It's like it's more about undergraduate research or other high impact practices, and how you translate them to a resume are different than if you're doing an internship. Well, that is a high impact practice, but than what we consider kind of like traditional resume for a job. I don't know if that answers your question, David.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a second question, waiting for other people with their thoughts here. Um, I have always had a funny um, feeling about balancing off the NACE competencies with what we're doing in research. Because I'm always afraid that we're tipping the scale to becoming more vo-tech, and that's not what we do. How do you deal with that, and how have you dealt with that? Either one of you.
We look at alignment holistically with our general ed, but also with the different programs specific. Um, and career services is very helpful with that, doing much like Karen talked about, identifying what those job skills are and then aligning them. Or for graduate school, what graduate school programs would be looking for. And so I think they're compatible, not I think it's how you translate them for individuals. So if a student is interested in going into industry, yeah, those using the same words that NACE uses is critical. But if they're more interested in graduate school, then than shifting it. And so that takes some individual coaching.
Okay.
But sharing, that's why we share the paired we try to share the paired competencies to show the two
I
sides.
understand. Okay. Karen?
Yeah. And to follow up what Anne was saying, I mean, so it's not just for our resume research and resume workshops, but even in our getting started in research workshops and planning your research journey, value of undergraduate research, we really concentrate. We introduce students to the NACE competencies, but we usually concentrate on the higher order, the critical analysis, the collaboration, all of those skills that research gives you. And then the more discipline specific are things going to be, particular to them. So we do actually, like I said, really elaborate on the more higher order that are applicable across a lot of different careers, because that's one of the things we talk to them about as well is this might be your first job, but that might shift. And so what are the things that you've learned how to do as part of the research process that could, work someplace else, your profession, your career changes, et cetera.
So it helps them to become more adaptable, I guess,
Right.
right?
And I would add that that piece is where our alum are particularly helpful at Career Expo and on our advisory board, because many of them are recent alum. And so they speak to that. How did what you do translate? And now that I'm looking for a different level job, how does that translate to the next step? So they're
Okay.
an incredible resource there.
Other questions, Lakshmi?
Karen and Anne, thank you for your presentation. My question is for Anne specifically. Anne, you shared that um, I think you shared that during the career fair on your campus, you do a poster session, research poster session. Can you speak more about being very strategic about like what kind of research you want to showcase and yeah, how do you recruit students? I think that's a great smart move. I just want more insights on what the recruitment process and what have you learned by,
So
that.
it is completely open. So we don't restrict um who can sign up in the sign up. We are restricted in terms of how many teams we can get just because of our space. And so it is kind of a first come, first serve in the sign up process. We do career services shares holistically. Here are the recruiters that are coming. And so students do know that piece. But we've actually found that it doesn't have to completely align. So we've had so for instance, we just had Career Expo last week, and we had a student who is a forensic biology student. She's doing a cancer research project, but it focuses on airline pilots. And so she's recruiting participants. And so this was a really ideal place for her to be recruiting. But she also got a lot of feedback from the pilots who were there recruiting about what training they get. So it contributed to her study. And you wouldn't normally think, gosh, this student wants to go to med school, right? She was not looking for a job. But it really helped the showcase. And then we have cases where there are students who are definitely there looking for a job, so they're very targeted. We do all the posters have to be reviewed. We try to get them reviewed by the Writing and Design Lab and by me, but sometimes it's just by me. So they can't share their poster without a pre-review. And we do have some restrictions on if you already have a job with a job offer, you're not supposed to be sharing your
Mm.
resume. We've gotten a little looser about that, just because of last year's issues with government positions not continuing, and so we've gotten a little looser with that. But we
Right.
keep it open.
And that session, when you do that poster session, you said it's the hour while they're setting up and getting their coffee.
Yep. And so
Yep, that's great.
they can't get their coffee without coming.
It's a requirement.
Yes.
Anastasia.
Yes, great. Thank you. In thinking about like how you partner with career centers, and this is to either of our speakers, uh, can you discuss a little bit about whether they have shared how, either through like evaluations or assessments, that how their students are believing research has been helpful for their career directions or to their next steps, whether it's grad school or not? A little context, like so our career centers puts out a big survey to all graduating seniors about where they're ending up, and they ask a ton of different questions on there. I've never seen anything that was really indicative of any research experience, and I'm wondering about, is there a way I can kind of, harness that existing survey to underscore the importance of research and to evaluate it a little bit, or not evaluate it per se, but showcase it. So.
Great question.
We have I think it's called a cap and gown survey, and it historically had a question about research that was incredibly poorly asked. And so I had students who had done research for all 4 years with me, and they didn't say they had because it said, "Did you do an REU?" And nobody
Mm.
knew what an REU was because they didn't define it. So our career services requested that that be changed, but it's a very long process. And so, as an alternative to that, we've embedded a question in our exit survey for undergraduate research. And again, our alum help with that piece. And especially when the ones that are formally serving on our URI advisory board, they're providing that input. We try to have one from each college.
Is it just about their participation, or is there anything else that your questions are kind of trying to get at?
So ours is a very broad question because we don't want to ask too many questions because then no one will answer our survey. So it's how has this helped with your career goals or your future goals? It's very broad. But our alum, when we talk to them, have much more defined terms. And that's why that career expo is really great because we can also talk to those that come back.
Do you get help? Do you get useful data from that survey? Do you get enough participation?
So we just started the one we're using 2 years ago, and it does help us. We have changed the workshops we're doing, and it has given us quotes that will help us with our funding. I don't know that it holistically has changed how we run the office, but it is helpful to see, and some things we're not aware of. We've changed our application process because of it. So
Mm. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Did you want me to add anything to
Oh,
that?
sure. Go on, Karen. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, so we also have somewhat of an exit survey. It's called the Student Senior Survey. We have the same problem and still have the same ongoing problem in that undergraduate research is not defined. I think on the senior survey, the last indication was like 28% of students do research, but we do our own triannual research survey of students, and we know that 58.6% of students actually do it because we also went to the trouble of defining what does research look like. And so we're actually in the process of trying to through colleges, not through just alumni, but particular college alumni resources, developing the 2 to 5 year out survey of what the sort of matching all the competencies and the things like that we've gone over with students while they're here, and what actually has been the impact of undergrad participating in research been on their career trajectory. That's in process. I mean, like I'm sure many of you, we're a large campus with a lot of information and trying to get at some of it. Some of the offices are a bit covetous when it comes to information about alums, for instance. So, but that is in process. But part of what we ask in our survey as well is not just what the impact, but particularly sort of career-oriented impacts do you feel you have learned as part of this research process? So we're getting an understanding of what students themselves think they're learning how to do, and it also tells us too, if depending on the data from that, what we also need to concentrate on.
Great. Thank you. Sarah.
I want to go back to something that Karen said about focusing on the upper level career competencies. And I think I'm like all of you and talk about critical thinking skills and communication to various audiences. But I was in a NACE presentation the other day where professionalism came up as a really important career competency. And I'm just kind of wondering collectively as a group, how are we working to build in those particular competencies, right? Showing up for work on time, writing professional emails. Like these are not the upper level ones that we really like to highlight with research, but how can we help or facilitate development of those competencies as well, or demonstrate those competencies?
Yeah.
We
Karen?
focus on that a lot in our research rookie program, so they're first year students, and it is a very small group, right? Because I have no money to run the program, so we have 19 who are going to complete the program this year, but we really focus on it in there. And I know across the board, our career services tries to go into all the freshman year experience classes, and they focus heavily on that. So, what is appropriate attire? What is appropriate communication? They all have to create their email signatures. But in our undergraduate research program, we have all kind of checkpoints that some might consider are, why do you do this? They just need the technical skills. We're doing it so that they learn how to have that responsibility and reporting and things. So I think you can do it at multiple levels, but it's really helped our research rookies. I'm just amazed at how well they're doing this year compared to some of the classic things we faced in the past.
Yeah,
Karen?
and I would say too, some of that for us, so some of what didn't come up the slides I show, we actually do talk about responsiveness to when you're applying for a job, et cetera, making sure you're keeping track and being timely. It also is some level of comportment in an interview and how do you dress and that sort of thing. One of the things we do when we look at even some of the higher order stuff, like work ethics, for instance, what does that actually mean? It's being, accountable, committed. So the kinds of things you're talking about, Sarah, showing up on time, and what does that mean? And then there's other places we also talk to students in terms of if they're are interviewing for a program or a scholarship or something like that, or going to be presenting at our annual symposium, how to dress, how do they actually present their research, talk to an audience, those kinds of things. So where on one hand, some of that is kind of more focused in the research to resume workshop. It also something that we address across a lot of the places that we actually work with students.
I do a lot of mock interviews with students that I film. They hate that, but then reviewing the film with them is really, really helpful, especially for my students who are applying to graduate programs and med school, law school, that kind of thing. Job stuff, as I say, career services usually handles that part of it, but they're not as good with the grad school piece. So we do some of that over here, and I'll just get a video camera and videotape them and then sit down and go over it with them. So we had a question there from Anastasia about the requirements of the distinction that she noted on the transcript and the note. Louise, what school are you at? I'm sorry.
I'll put our requirements in.
Okay. Louise, what school are you at? Where are you, Louise?
Hey, I'm at Colorado State University. I can
Thank
put our
you.
requirements.
Okay.
Send the
So
link.
yeah, you noted that you've got a transcript with a distinction on it for students who have done research, and that they have to submit a reflection. And the question was, what are the requirements of the distinction? So maybe if you can throw a link into the chat,
Yeah, I
that'd be
linked
helpful.
to our public facing website about it. So anyone's welcome to see
Okay.
that.
I just linked to a PDF because our public facing website is being constructed.
And then Sarah noted also that big interview, which continues in the long tradition now of dumb names for things, which is part of Handshake. Students can actually practice interviewing in there and get feedback, which is also really helpful. And I know a lot of our students do use that.
I'd say the way you're doing it, David, is really helpful for the students who are going for the prestigious scholarships that
Yeah.
require an interview. That format that
Well,
you're using
and
is
because it's
helpful.
specific questions too, I have a file folder with, specific questions for these different fields and different programs and what kinds of questions you might be asked. And almost always the students come back from the interviews saying, yeah, I really wasn't asked anything that I wasn't prepared to talk about, which was great. And the videotaping is so helpful because a lot of the times they just don't realize, the little eccentricities or little ticks that they have. And then when you point it out to them on a video, they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I do that." You know?
We have some career services people who will also do workshops, how to enter a room, how to sit down in a room, how
Hmm.
to do some of the mirroring, which is a really interesting piece too.
Yeah, we do a whole thing on what you do when they take you out to dinner, right? Is it okay to have a drink? Probably not a good idea to order the French onion soup. That's not a good look for somebody who's on a job interview or a grad school interview.
Or
So little
spaghetti.
things like that. What's that?
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti,
Yeah.
which I love, but not a good time to eat spaghetti.
Or a po'
And
boy,
it's
yeah.
also we also have to constantly tell them it's not your last meal. You don't have to eat everything that's on the plate. You're there for a different purpose. Other questions. We're getting some really good info in the chat here on various distinction programs on transcripts with links. I encourage you to take a look at those.
I will also drop a link into, we don't have a transcript distinction, but we have a distinguished researcher certificate that there's about 9 different things students have to complete. And it really is basically, what does it mean to be a researcher? So there's 9 credit hours of coursework. There's publication or presentation, one of which is at our symposium. Maybe they have an internship, et cetera. So and then they get a certificate from us and a cord, an honors cord for graduation.
Yeah, I put the link into my certificate program, which we just started. This is our second year. We're the only ones to have this in the state of Virginia. It's a certificate in research and creative activity, 12 credits, as Karen says. And the nice thing about the way that we designed ours is 9 of the credits are classes that basically double count. They're already taking them. So just the only add-on is a 2 credit intro class and a 1 credit capstone.
And I would just add, at our institution, we were told we could not make credit part of our transcript designation. So we very carefully navigated around that. That just varies by institution.
Yeah, yeah. Other questions, comments?
I have one for Kara.
Sure.
So you
Me?
mentioned that you have the whole mix of students and you thought it would be more senior students. How do you navigate that when you have them all in the same room?
It's complicated. Um, so that's one of the things that actually we've been talking about is would it actually make more sense because it is a pretty intense workshop. There's a lot of information that's given to them, even though we try to be as interactive as possible, like with the worksheet and etc. But it's still a lot of information. And so we've been actually thinking about actually breaking it down maybe into 2 workshops or absorbing the how to sort of think about what the impact of research might be on you and start looking for skills and things like that into something different or absorbing in another workshop. Usually that happens. I mean, I think we do better when we have a specific outreach request, a registered student organization like the pre-health RSO here on our campus, or we do actually a lot of work with the College of ACES and Applied Health Sciences. And so we will tailor it to them and we'll ask them ahead of time, are your students just getting started? Are they already, at the point where they're going to be interviewing or applying to grad school? Sometimes it is a mix. So, we try to, again, give them just enough information and introduce them to resources without going into a lot of detail. And if they want more from us, then they can, either come talk to us or seek out other resources on campus. We do a lot of one-on-one as well. But yeah, so I'm not saying it's easy. It's actually kind of complicated to address both things because they don't really seem related on their face.
Hmm. Other questions or comments? All right, well, I'm going to give everybody back 5 minutes of their life. And I hope you'll give me credit for that when the time comes, because I could use the 5 minutes. Thanks to everybody for participating in today's exchange, and sincere thanks to our terrific facilitators, Ann Betcher at Embry-Riddle and Karen Rodriguez at University of Illinois, and thanks to Kerr, especially Todd Wagner, for his tech support. We're going to send out the slide deck along with the recording because I know there was a lot of details in there that people would like to see a little bit more of, really helpful information. Join us next month on Friday, March 20th at noon Eastern for a session on undergraduate research annual reports and data gathering. The link for registration will be posted soon in the Kerr community. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and have a great day.